ॐ कालकालाय विद्महे कालातीताय धीमहि तन्नो कालभैरव प्रचोदयात्। ॐ हिङ्गुळे परमहिङ्गुळे अमृतरूपिणि तनुशक्तिमनशिवे श्रीहिङ्गुळाम्बिकाय नमः। Namaskaram. Welcome to yet another video of our Ishtartha Guru Bhairava, where we will try to understand him one step closer as whatever we know him a minute before. As always told, we have something to learn to make our Jnana Chakshu, to know something a little bit about our Ishta, to make him that how exactly this particular life is blessed to even know him. Today, the topic is on very niche. Maybe actually many of have already Jñānis have already told about this, but I would like to share something which was being said in the Natha Sampradaya. This is about Yoni Rahasya. Every one of us know that actually when it comes to the today's Sanatana, Bhagavatam is already told about this. We have crossed 84 lakhs journey to become the human form, and whatever we are standing today, we have crossed the 84 different stages. The same question actually was being asked to Guru Gorakhnatha one day at the Kamakya Pita. He was in a Kamakya and he was performing some sadhana, and one of his sādhaka was approached to him and he was asking on that evening when Gorakhnatha was trying to express his information, asking that why did the Jīva become even a human to experience him? This was a question to Guru Gorakhnatha. On that evening, when Sadhaka approached to the Guru, he did not just listen carefully to the teaching of the Bhakti, what exactly will make a one individual to experience the Bhakti, to know the Jñāna, what exactly the Bhāva is all about, and why exactly the base, the Adhara Stambha is sadhana. Here, Guru Gorakhnatha pauses a minute and tells Sadhaka to understand what exactly is the behind the curtain of all these things. But something within him remains unsettled while asking this particular question. He bowed down to the Guru first and asked, Gurudeva, I understand that the bhakti is important. I understand that bhava is very, very important to know the ishta. And I know to, I even understand that the jnana is the main culmination of this particular journey. And I understand that the sadhana is the adhara stambha, as necessarily as repeatedly you have been telling this from the many of your pravachanas, satsangas. But how exactly this is important? But then I have one more question he added to this particular question, asking that why is this human body is so essential to know the Paramatma? If the Atma is already present in every life around us, if the consciousness is existing even in animals, even in plants, even in a Jīva Rashi, other forms, then why are we looking as Jnana as most important, and why Jnana attains, Jīva attains the Jnana while other bodies are not able to understand this? And I have heard about in a Kirtana, in a Krishna Kirtana, where one of the, in Satsanga, they were told that 84 lakh Yonis need to be very, very essential to know about it. Guru Gorakhnatha, that day was a Amavasya. Being a very dark night, there was a light lamp which was being lit up, and he told, be seated, let me just explain you what exactly the Rahasya is all about. For the couple of minutes, Guru Gorakhnatha remained silent, and he actually mentioned for a few moments. He looked at the sadhaka's eyes and he said, "You're asking about very, very, very secretive information which human has with normally known on a external facts. This is called, as we are sitting in the Mahakshetra, let me actually disclose you something called Yoni Rahasya." The sadhaka looked upon, the guru was able to continue to say what exactly he wants to, and he tells very keenly that understand this very carefully, because do not think by the title that we are trying to explore on the worldly form as what we need to, as most of them always think about this. The 84 lakh yonis should not be understood merely as something like gigantic list of bodies, different sort of bodies. They are they are actually connected in a vast something called the navigation map, which will help us to experience, which will make us a embodiment and make us much more conscious to know this present existence. As every one of us know, the body changes from the childhood to the actually to the to the old age. Normally there are the different stages. We all every one of us who has taken birth in this mrityuloka will go in this particular stage of body changes. Even when the body changes, we also have something called tendencies. Mood swing will be there every day, every minute, depending upon the age where you are. And when you move from one environment to other environment, from one place to other place, automatically environment also will be changed. Each individual at the different stages of his yogyata and knowledge, he has a capacity to change from one to the other. Maybe at the initial stage, you will be trying to learn what is the survival purpose, but later on you move like how exactly the survival purpose can make me as a luxury or a comfort. This is what the human, as a human, we have knew about it. But the jiva continues in a journey through the what we call it as a samsara. Samsara is actually a ocean. People call this as actually a process. People call this actually like a phenomena which make you aware from where exactly you started, where exactly you need to head towards to. This is actually what we all of us know. But here, the question is not merely how many bodies are there. The deepest question the sadhaka was able to ask and the guru was able to explain here is what is being learned through the what we call it as embodiment. When guru was able to share this particular word as embodiment to the sadhaka, sadhaka actually was that particular seeker was paused at a minute and he was trying to listen very carefully, because he was not able to understand what exactly is the embodiment, because evolution of a embodiment is not that the same thing as what we call it as a evolution of the realization what today's science talks about. They talk about all the Jīva Rashis, so many millions of the life around this earth or in this Mrityuloka. We have already seen it. Science has also told about this. But what is that embodiment? Guru was able to decode this information in a very subtle level, telling that the body may become more complex. The more you go into the science, the more you go into the internal of the science, it will become more complex. Even nowadays, you may have already seen this. Initially, like 30 to 40 years before, when there was an hospital, the doctor used to be a general physician and he used to take care of all the types of treatments about the body. He used to know about the entire body. Later on today, we have evolved in such a way that each segment is divided into a different levels of the studies, research, And doctors also, like when it even comes to the nose, when it comes to the eyes, when it comes to the brain, when it comes to the hand, when it comes to the bones, everyone has a different vertical to know. But realize requires something more about this. This is more than a science as a sadhaka, what we need to know. This particular rahasya need or embodiment to understand that you require something called viveka. Viveka is the awareness. And it requires vairagya. Vairagya, why? Because unless you know about why I am here, this question has never been arised. Vairagya, where exactly we are heading towards, you will never able to understand what is the secret of this 84 lakh. And to know about this process, you need something called Bhāva. To know the Bhairava, we always tells you need to have Bhāva, because Bhāva is a state which will take you one step closer to him to experience what exactly the supreme source or the source is offering for us. And mainly through this Bhakti, as everyone knows that actually Bhakti Marga, why Bhakti is also important. And also finally we need something called sadhana. Merely you will be thinking that the sadhana which I am trying to do, I am just trying to do mechanically, I don't know anything. But the Guru here to the sadhaka was able to explain one particular secret, that sadhana is not something a process. Sadhana is something called embodiment. It's an evolution of making you from moving from a viveka, from vairagya, having a bhava, how exactly this will lead you to the bhakti, and sadhana is the final stage, what you need to understand. It realizes to recognize something called self, first need to be known. The Guru actually made him to sit, and he was able to draw 6 circles on the ground. 6 different circles he was able to draw, and he was able to explain, let us walk through these circles. Why exactly this 6 circles is very important for us to understand where exactly the sadhana we are talking about, how, where exactly, even if we have even we have experienced one sadhana, any devata sadhana, if we have experienced, how exactly we are able to stand in that particular circle. So he draws all the 6 circles, make the sadhaka to come and stand in first circle. He tells, this circle is called Jalayoni. What is Jalayoni? He tells very clearly, it is a aquatic life. He very clearly explains, this particular Jalayoni is actually consists of 9 lakh births. The lesson of existence is what is being learned in this 9 lakh lives. The first circle was about Jala, means water, aquatic. As we all know, many of them actually know, like why even in certain Shakti Pitas, Meena, or what we call it as a fish, is being offered to the Ma. Maybe in the different way connection we will be able to talk about that. But let me explain you. Jala is the life. Jalaja or Jala, life emerges first from the water. Even in the Sanatana Dharma, this is what has been clearly been told. Whether it is a Vaishnava or Shaivism or Shakta, normally this is what people we know. Like even science, even today science talks about the same thing. Without water, there is no life. And life emerges from that water. Traditionally, the category is counted as 9 lakh forms we take. The sadhaka is like, what does that the Jīva learn here in 9 lakh forms? We have seen fish, we have seen crabs, we have seen whale, we have seen different types of aquatic animals. The Jīva Tattva, what exactly we are learning here, Gurudeva? Gurudeva very clearly tells, he points out that do not imagine that the lesson being with a philosophy what has been said, because that particular existence doesn't understand what is the word philosophy at all. The first lesson, much more primitive, what we need to understand is, and it is very, very simple, is my existence. I come, I eat, I make sure my tummy is full. And how to survive from this emerging problems in this existence. The aquatic realm represents the earlier stage of experience, of embodiment of survival. People talk today that I have a survival issue. I have a problem with my current stage of being in my life. I have a money problem. I don't have proper food. Don't have proper nurture. People talk about many things. Talk about many aspects of the life around them, and talk about that for the existence only they have a problem. Here, what we need to understand is, this is the earlier stage of embodiment survival, what it is. The moment the nutritions, what we call it as adaptation, what we call it as a reproduce, or responding to the environment around us, is what actually we learn in this particular stage of Jalayoni. There is no embodiment, what we call it as psychological identity. Me, I need to know, I need to experience. There is no abstract, what we call it as understanding of what exactly the future is about. They don't even think about future. What is next minute? You may correlate this in a very existence as people whoever are initial stages of the birth, they normally will be in the same survival mode. I need to come, I need to work, I need to eat, I need to reproduce. I don't want any kind of bhakti, I don't want any kind of a devata, nothing. My identity, I need to create my identity. I need to, philosophically, I don't want any shit around me. I don't need any kind of a future. I need to work, eat, reproduce and go. Here, water itself becomes the symbolic to understand, because water is the initial stage of tattva. Because it flows, it adapts to the surrounding. If the problem is there, they get adapted to the surrounding. They don't go think about above their capability to understand, experience what exactly this creation is about. It may be in the surrounding, it may be in the, what we call it as, it carries. It does not ask, where should I go next? It responds to the condition of the current existence. Here, Guru Gorakhnatha was able to explain what is you need to learn in this particular Jalayoni, the first circle. He tells survival. Here, the Jīva encounters is the fundamental impulse to preserve this embodiment. It only preserves this body. The second lesson, what it understand in this particular 9 lakh Yoni Tattva is, life cannot remain rigid. It must respond to the particular environment, because adaptation is what is going to be learned in this particular stage. The third lesson, it normally in the Jala Tattva or Jalayoni is being spoken about as, Guru clearly tells it is about the sensitivity. The external condition begins shaping your behavior. Someone tries to come, how exactly? It may be like a fishes together, a small fish. When a big fish is trying to come to near to you, how exactly you need to escape from it? Behavior, shaping the behavior, sensitivity it brings. And the fourth importance lesson he gives us is about the continuity. Life seeks to continue itself. If I happen to yesterday do that, today also I need to do that. Tomorrow also I need to do this. Such that actually my existence is still present. The fifth is about the dependency upon the nature. The embodiment discovers that it is not independent. It exists within the larger field of this water. Here, in that first circle, Gurudeva was able to tell The inner lesson what we need to understand here is the Jiva as a what it need to, the existing itself must first be experienced before what we call it as existence can even be questioned. Even the question before even arrives, you need to experience this existence. This is the foundation. The 9 lakh yonis is the foundation, but a survival is not a liberation here. The beginning of knowing starts when actually one bubble to the other bubble, one circle to the other circle, you know, I must leave. The first circle is about I must leave. It does not yet ask why I am leaving in this existence. The question belongs to the second bubble, or we call it as a second circle. Gurudeva takes him to the second circle. Here it is about Sthavara Yoni. Sthavara is about the tree. Here a 20 lakh yonis or species we come across. In that particular circle, in Stharva, Gurudeva, he tells in this particular Sthavara, he draws one particular tree and he tells very clearly. Then comes after the Jala, it comes the Strava. The rooted is existence. Traditionally, we have been counted after 9, it is about 9 lakhs, it is about the 20 lakh forms. The sadhaka immediately looks at the tree and he feels like, okay, after 9 lakhs, 20 lakhs is the tree. It may be in a different forms, different varieties around us. What can something that cannot talk teaches us? This is what actually this particular bubble is going to teach us. Guru, much more than you think, the tree cannot run away from the storm. Every one of us know that once it is rooted, it is just rooted. It will, through the storm, it will be plucked out, mowed out, or it has actually been grounded to the storm, such that actually it can face the storm. It cannot leave when the especially when, like whenever there is a heat waves or if summer is on very top, it run away as what humans we do. It cannot even reach to another place from, if it is raining or if it is actually like over thunders are coming, it cannot move. What it is teaching, it remains, it receives, it transforms from day to day, how exactly the environment is teaching them. It gives, understand very clearly, it gives and it waits. After this 5 definition, sadhaka was able to ask Guru, we know that actually we have been seeing the plants around us, plant life around us. What is this Sthavara is trying to teach us? Guru uses only one single word. He tells about stillness. Even if you miss out the stillness and this current existence, understand you are still in the Jalayoni. You have not even come to the Sthavara where you are able to understand what exactly the stillness is all about. Let me just tell you like this. Guru was able to tell, it is not merely about the physical stillness. It is about a deepest teaching as a sadhaka, every one of us need to understand what exactly we are heading towards to. It is about the endurance without even a constant reaction. The plant normally experiences the sunlight, it experiences the darkness, it experiences the rain, it experiences even the drought, it experiences about the something called as an heat, it has also experienced something called as a cold, it has also experienced something like a growth every day, it also experienced something called as a decay, someone is cutting, decay, and next about the generation. It experiences every stages. Yet its existence is deeply connected to the rhythm. It teaches something profound principle to us, what we need to know as a human. Receiving and giving. Sthavara, the plant life, teaches something very profound to us. The tree receives the sunlight and the water, and it gives back the oxygen, it gives back the shade, it gives back the fruit, it gives back the wood to us for the survival, it gives us the shelter, it gives us a nourishment. If I want to talk, I can talk about everything here. But it does not negotiate with generosity. It simply, what we call it as, participates in the larger audience. Everyone around me are the same phenomena. I will also. Sādhaka was able to ask, Gurudeva, in this second bubble, second circle, what I am able to understand, what I need to understand as a human, because I have already crossed the 9 lakh yonis, here 20 lakhs, what I need to understand after crossing this. Gurudeva tells, first is about the patience. Growth always take time. Doesn't mean that actually I sow the seed today, tomorrow I need the results. This is what happens to the sadhaka. They want to actually recite the mantra, and they think that actually the mantra is actually jagrita for tomorrow, and it gives the fruits for them. Patience. If you do not have a patience even in the sadhana, think you are still in the sthavara, yoni, tattva, knowledge. Growth always takes time. The second secret the Guru was able to share was about the endurance. Whatever what we call it as a discomfort, once you start escaping from the discomfort, again it will come back to you. Not every discomfort require escape. Endurance is what has been taught in the Sthavara Yoni. The third secret Guru was able to tell about the rootedness. Life always requires something called grounded. It is very, very essential. And fourth, he was able to tell about the rhythm. Existence move from a cycle. Every cycle, summer, rainy, winter, cycles. A rhythm is there. And what we have, the fifth lesson is about giving back. Life does not exist only to consume. You may have come across many of the people who always tell, I want this, I want this, I want this. I'm ready to learn this, I'm ready to do this, I'm ready to actually acquire this, but never ready to give back. That is the reason we always tell giving back is, you are crossing the 20 lakhs consciousness of the yoni. Sthavara. The inner lesson here Guru was able to tell that Jīva, when it crosses from 9 lakhs to the 20 lakhs yoni, what exactly we need to learn? Not every moment is a progress. Sometimes progress remains steady, because the profound, what we call it as a important later is about the sadhana, because when even, let me tell like this, the Guru actually even explains about this. He tells about sit. The untrained mind asks like, how long I need to sit? You may be wondering like, do the sadhana of this particular mandala repeatedly. How many times I need to do? How many mandalas I need to do? Why exactly I need to do? Why exactly I need to go to the temple for so many weeks, so many months? The particular parikramana of the particular hill I need to do for so many weeks. Why I need to do? So many months why I need to do? What is the importance of it? Here it is about the sit. The untrained mind asks, how long? Here, tree in the 20 lakhs Sthavara Yoni, it teaches very beautiful lesson. As long as necessary. The Sthavara is a stage. Therefore, what we need to understand, profound preparation of the, what we call it as in a sadhana, it is about the asana. It is about the dharana. It is about the tapas. This is what actually the second bubble, the second circle is trying to teach us. This is what actually the Guru was able to explain to the sadhaka. Stillness begins before even the meditation. People talk about the meditation today, but they don't know anything about the stillness. Problem with them is actually they have still not experienced or know what exactly the Stavara Yoni is going to teach us. The Stavara stage is going to teach us. The third circle is about Krimi, Kita Yoni. 9, 20, this is 11 lakhs. It is about the reaction. The Guru was able to tell very beautifully, like the Jīva enters something called as moving, from sthira to the moving. Sensitive, what we call senses forms actives here. Traditionally, this category is given as 11 lakhs. There is a very importance of this particular stage of the third bubble very clearly. Here the consciousness encounters a different world. 11 lakh jivas, from animal, from kita especially, 11 lakh insects, bugs, what we call it as, moving beyond the rapid. Because now we have got something called movement in our life. After the strava, the plant life, we have something called insects. We can move. The environment becomes immediate for us. And here it teaches us something like dangers must be detected around us. For the survival, dangers must be detected. And we need to find for the food. And also there are predators must be avoided. We need to avoid such that actually my ghost, or what we call it as my family or my group or my particular people around me should be controlled or should be actually hold. Boundaries must be established. Even like some insects will have some boundary. When you even draw a line, when an ant is trying to go, it does not crosses it. Here, Kita Yoni is going to teach us that it has boundaries, must be established between that particular circle. Here, the sadhaka was able to ask, what changes here? Guru was able to explain him very clearly. Particular jiva, when it comes to the third Kita Yoni, it increases the responsiveness in that particular life. Like fear, attraction, like some life attracts to the light and it goes and falls into the death. When you are doing especially when you light up a lamp or when you are doing any kind of a yajna, havana, you may see that some insects actually going around get attracted to the fire and comes and die. Attraction, repulsion, the third one. The fourth is about the defense. The fifth is about the territory. We call it as territorial. The sixth is about what we call it as intensive response. Immediately respond to whatever is happening around circle. This is the very important stage where sadhaka need to understand what is the importance of the sadhana. Because consciousness begins with learning. Something is happening to me, but there is still a major limitation in my body. A reaction, what we call it as, it dominates the awareness. It stimulates what comes. It actually responds the follows. When Guru was able to tell all these secrets, the sadhaka becomes very quick and he understood what exactly the connection he was trying to share. And finally he asked, Gurudeva, what is the inner lesson we learn when it comes to the Kita Yoni? Guru responds in one particular statement. I can respond to the world, but it is not yet fully learned. I can choose how to respond is what need to be learned in this particular Kita Yoni. If you have this particular mindset, try to understand. If we have this particular tendency, understand, I can respond to the world. I can choose how to respond. If I'm not able to aware about this, I am still in that Kita Yoni, the third circle, the third bubble. Thus, that actually distinguish between what we call it as a critical in a human life. Because sadhana begins when the reaction becomes observation. Guru was able to tell very clearly sadhana begins when the reaction stops. When you start observing the things very carefully around you, you cross something called from Kita Yoni. You cross this particular life from that, especially from Sthavara Yoni to the Kita Yoni. From Kita Yoni, you will be passing on to the next day stage. He takes him to the fourth circle. The fourth circle is about Pashu Yoni. 11 lakhs has been completed in Kita Yoni. Here it is about the 10 lakhs. He tells one single word even before he starts. He tells about freedom. Sādhaka actually asks, what is that he is trying to teach? Guru actually looks at the sky. He just looks at the sky and tells, now the Jīva receive the wing. Pakshi. What we call it as Pashu. First, before even you going to the Pashu Yoni, it is about the Pakshi Yoni. Here, Sadhaka get pause and thinks at Pashu, Pakshi. Okay, it doesn't mean that actually Pashu comes first. It is actually the Pakshi comes first. The fourth circle is not about the Pashu, it is about one step behind as a Pakshi Yoni. Traditionally, we know actually after the 11 Kita Yonis, 11 lakh Kita Yonis, we come into something called Pashu Yoni. Pashu Yoni is very, very important. It has 10 lakh forms. The birds introduce something symbolically extraordinary for the life to understand. It explains about the space. The creator is no longer bound to the ground itself, Kita. It moves through the sky. It sees the distance. It migrates from one place to other place. It will always be in a search of food for the existence. Once it goes to the migrate to the different place, it again come back. It returns. And it has something called attachment, the nest, building its nest. From one place to other place, it builds, again it builds one more place, again it builds. This is Pakshi Yoni. The 10 lakh life is being spent in the same stages. Then it leaves from one particular nest to the other nest, from other nest to other nest. It thinks that actually this nest is very small and I need to be little bigger, and that little bigger is again smaller because of my family is little becoming very much more adaptive for the space. I need to go a little bit more higher. And finally, the travel vast distance also it turns to learn. Here in the Pashu Yoni, the sadhaka asks, Guruji, what exactly I would be learning when it comes to the 10 lakh different species in the Pakshi Yoni? It tells first about the movement, freedom, but the importance about the movement. The Jīva learns to what we call it as existence can extend from one place to the other place. You explore the freedom. The second is about how exactly the movement will give you a freedom. It experiences a larger field of the movement. The third is about the perspective. Here human live in a different way. Culture, environment, everything is different. If I migrate to that place from Bharatadesha to the other some part of the world, how exactly I'll be able to perceive there? The world can be seen from the above. From one fixed location, it can experience into a different one. This is what the perspective will change. And it will give you the direction. The movement now requires the something called orientation in this particular life. And especially the fifth lesson it gives us is about the longing. What is that longing? The bird becomes very powerful symbolically of the desire to go from somewhere from beyond to the what we call it as immediate location, from one location to the other location. And this is where something subtle begins. The Jiva discovers what exactly the freedom is not yet the liberation. It's a freedom, just a freedom. Experience the different environment. The bird may fly through the entire sky and still remain what we call it as bounded to the hunger, bounded to the fear, bounded to the instant reaction, even to the biological necessities. The sky is vast, but the consciousness remains contained in the conditioned mind because it is still in the what we call it as Pashu Yoni. Guru was able to tell him very beautiful lesson that in this fourth circle, what exactly we have a lesson to learn. The freedom of the moment is not the freedom of the consciousness. The distinctions becomes very, very essential for being what we call it as being human. The person can travel across the world, change the job, change the relationship. Like one, he may tell that actually this is not my relationship, it doesn't go to work with me, and he marries one more, he takes divorce and he goes to that side, changing the relationship. And he also changes the house, small house, big house, medium house, from flat to the actually to the apartment. He may also change something like from one environment to other environment. With the countries he may migrate. He still remains in a what we call it as imprisoned inside the same mindset. Here the bird is teaching us a very beautiful lesson. Do not confuse movement with the liberation. If I go there, I will learn something. Pakshi Yoni is very, very important, which teaches us very clearly what we feel. Moment, we get confused that actually that is my freedom, that is the liberation. If we are in this particular stage of thoughts, think we are still stuck in the Pashu Yoni. Pakshi Yoni. The next stage actually comes about the Pashu Yoni. Pashu Pakshi Yoni. Normally it has been considered as a different. That's the reason in the previous version, in the fourth circle, we were able to talk about Pashu first and Pakshi, and later on we were able to touch what exactly comes first. Here, as a fifth circle, it is about the what we call it as Pakshi Yoni, or the after Pakshi Yoni, it is about the Pashu Yoni. After the 10 lakhs Pakshi Yoni, you come into something called 30 lakhs Pashu Yonis, different animals around you. It may be anything you point out around you. It may be like tiger in the forest, it may be donkeys, it may be dog, anything. It may be several animals. This is the large and what we call it as a traditional category, what we need to understand very carefully, the 30 lakh forms. Here, what we need to, the Gurudeva was able to explain very clearly that here, the emotional dimension becomes much more richer. In the Pashu Yoni, you experiencing something called the animal can actually the world displays. Affection, the dogs, the cows, the cats, the cattle, everything, affection. You start, you're able, it will be able to display us that actually it has affection. It will also display us something called about the loyalty. Loyalty, it may be in the form of the dogs, it may be in the form of the horse, it may be in the form of the cat, anything. Any stories can be connected here. The third, it teaches about the maternal care. Maternal care, Parenthood, it teaches us how exactly the parent, once it gives birth to the child, how exactly it need to be nurtured. Pashu Yoni. It will also teach us something called as in protection. My son, my daughter is to be protected from going from here to there. I need to be protective for her, to make sure she or he is being protected from the environmental calamities or environmental situations. Territories. One particular, this is my area, that is, you know about the dogs, especially when it comes from one street to the other street. Normally you have come across all these situations or this kind of stories, feeds, whenever you have come across the social media, you have come across this. And it also teaches something called as bonding. How exactly the mother and bonding need to be there. Connecting to the Pakshi Yoni, it is also an extension of what we call it as in fear. Here, something new will come into the existence, grief. If you have a grief, if we have a grief, Pashu Yoni is where actually we are still standing. Social organization, from this difference of animals, they will be able to understand, they will be able to socially get connected to that one particular species. Only that particular group of people I will go and meet, group of people I will go and connect, group of actually I'm comfortable. Social organization is the mindset of what we call it as Pashu Yoni. Even what we call it as today as the corporate world talks about the cooperation, the society talks about the cooperation. This is actually initially starts. If you go take one particular sheep or a cattle from one place to other, it walks together. Cooperation, it learns about the cooperation, how to walk. Even if two start fighting, competition, you know that actually there are certain places in the part of the South India as well as in the North, especially they take two different hens and they make them to fight, and even the the sheep, they will make them to fight. Even the two different animals of the same species are made them to fight. Competition, they build the competition. Where exactly the competition is in your current life is because of your still the memories of Pashu Yoni. Here Jīva lessons very, very, very profound. Relationship is what the importance what we learn from the Pashu Yoni. The what we call it as the creator does not merely exist. It belongs. It protects. It recognizes my group, my family, my community. It remembers very clearly. And it responds to the emotional. People tell that actually emotion is very important. But try to understand, in that fifth circle, you are still in that Pashu Yoni. Emotions are connected to the Pashu Yoni. Does it mean that actually we should forget? No. These are the lessons we need to carry forward for the next stages. Here in the fifth circle, in 30 lakh life forms, it teaches something very beautiful to the human being. Gurudeva explains very beautifully to the sadhaka, telling that attachment, I belong to this. I only belong to this particular sampradaya. I belong only to this particular Shaiva or Shakta, or again, here the reason is actually they only get stick to the one particular community of the Aradhana of the Devata. This is what actually it is, teaches us. In Pashu Yoni, we get attached. We think that this is only the entire life is all about. Attachment. Human being also attached, like I belong to this particular country, I belong to this particular stage, I belong to only. Beyond that, there is something else. In the sadhana, you will be able to decode. This is what actually the sixth balloon is going to teach us. Sixth circle is going to teach us. But in the fifth, the lesson is very beautiful. Attachment. The second is about the love. I care for another. I start loving for the another. Expressing myself that I care for you. Pashu Yoni. Third is about what we call it as protection. I will defend what it is me. Today corporate world is teaching this is what it is. Pashu Yoni, protection. You're still thinking that my existence need to be protected. We talk about something called loyalty. When someone is being asked, they tell that I remain with my group very, very loyally. When they actually been baptized, or what we call it as in a different sampradaya, when they go across, they tell that I'll be very loyal. Even after the loyalty, they talk about the loyalty. It remains with the group. Yes, this is a lesson learned. This is a lesson learned in the Pashu Yoni, that loyalty is not your choice. It is your importance for you to be part of, to experience that Jīva into the next level of what we call it as Jivatma. The fifth is about the emotional bonding. Separation can produce a distress. When animal being separated from that loved one, even it may be like a farm, cattle farm, when it is being taken away from its loved ones and gone to the next stage, it may be in the form of people cut it, or whatsoever it may be done, whatever the process they are going to take through, or maybe moved from one location to the other location. Try to understand. It has something called separation, emotional bondages it has. Human also have this. This is what we need to understand. Separation can produce a distress. The sixth one is about the social order. Life is no longer entirely solitary. This is what a beautiful lesson it teaches us. But as a sadhaka, what exactly the fifth bubble or a fifth circle teaches us in the Yoni Rahasya? The animal teaches the human something very, very, very important what we need to understand. Emotions are good. Emotions is not the enemy. But emotion is a stage of the consciousness. The problem begins when the attachment becomes your bondage. The animal loves according to their instinct, their knowledge. The human begins to receive the possibility of transforming the attachment into what we call it as prema. You may be wondering, this guy is only changing the word into a different language. Prema in Sanskrit, it has a deepest meaning. It is not the attachment. It is not about the bondage. It is about the conscious love. Irrespective of wherever it is, you still give your 100% to them. Here, once the prema is active, you are become one conscious love. That fear, whatever is there, it can become the surrenderness. Prema to the Daiva, your fear will become the surrenderness to him. The prema, the protection, can be used as a seva. What we call it as protect myself, my identity, too can be used as a seva to make sure that actually that continues to the generation, it continues. The prema attachment can become much more like a devotion, or what we call it as the prema will activate the transformation, becomes one of the greatest possibilities what this human birth can ever experience. Prema is not as what I'm trying to talk about, the emotions. The fifth bubble about Pashu Yoni teaches us very profound lesson what we need to learn. After this 30 lakh species of Yoni coming out, you go into something called the sixth bubble. The Guru holds his hand to the sadhaka, takes to the final stage. You may be wondering, like, actually already we have gone through about this particular stage, what finally we have come to the final end. 4 lakhs. Here Guru talks about 4 lakhs, the lesson of a choice. Here the Guru becomes very silent, very, very silent. He doesn't talk. Now we have arrived to the doorway. Now we are arrived at the place where we are standing. Manushya. Traditionally, we normally speak about Manushya means male, female. 4 lakh forms, different lakh form in all those 80 lakh classification we have already crossed. Now it is 4 lakhs. A different religion, culture, different atmosphere, all those things you will come across. The sādhaka ask, like, what makes the body different? Even if he is specially abled, why they are able to teach something great to the society? The Guru answers one particular word. He tells, choice. He tells, don't misunderstood me. Animals have awareness. Birds also have the awareness. Plants has a life, but many begins demonstrating extraordinary capabilities only when they get this particular human life. Human uniqueness is this teaching is not what we call it as a simple that humans are not just humans, they are more alive. This is what actually I always tell, be alive, more alive in whatever you do. Guru was able to tell very clearly, profoundly that human is not one more creation of the human or one more life of the human. It is not a simple one more human. It is about more alive. Prana, prema prana. It is about the human consciousness can turn what do you call it as into itself and ask, who is experiencing this particular life? Trust me, if you have ever got this particular question in your mind, understand you are in the glimpse of that human, what we call it as very, very important stage. Manushya Yoni, you are experiencing something called Manushya Yoni. Experiencing this particular life is about Manushya Yoni. Who is experiencing this particular life? This is a turning point. As we need to understand, Sadhaka was being explained by the Guru very clearly. This is the turning point. The human being can something called they observe. They observe something called desire. They observe something called like they questions the desire. Is this important for me? Is this necessity for me? Or this is actually I'm just wasting the spilling out wherever I want it. They questions the desire. They restrain the desire. They know how to hold your desire. They transform your desire. And finally, investigation that one who is desire should be experienced. This is why the human birth becomes what we call it as atha dharma, or what we call it as antardhama. It is not about external facts. It is about inner world. This is the reason many of the greatest gurus today, they are talking about more about inner engineering. More they are talking about inner experiment. Sudarshana Kriya, it may be like inner engineer, it may be Shambhavi, it may be about anything. Why? Atmadhama. They are trying to teach what this is existence is really important of. The form of a life which is capable to yield to the highest purpose to experiencing this particular self is what important. When you go into the Tantra Shastra, even it may be like Tantra Shastra, it may be like even Bhagavatam also. In Bhagavatam also it is clearly told, explicitly it calls that human birth are rare. After many births and urges, the wise or to serve for the highest good, while life again returns, remains, again it returns, again it remains. This is called Antardhama, the inner exploration. What you see external is actually going to teach. If people are only talking about the external thing, external luxury, external comfort, only talking about what we call it as their existence, about attachment, the love, the protection, the loyalty, the emotional bonding, the social orders, whatever they are still in the Pashu Yoni. Manushya Yoni, they have not yet experienced, because more alive. Alive of what? Alive of who experiencing this life is the first stage of human Yoni, or what we call it as Manushya Yoni. Unless these questions is never been arrived. Even in Tantra, this again goes like what we call it as Satvika, Tamasika, Rajasika, different stages, what we call it as a Panchamakara. Again, it goes into a different stages of experiencing it. But let me just tell you, the highest knowledge today is being shared very clearly, like life takes rebirth again. Punanati Jananam, Puranati Maranam. Repeatedly we come across. For what? Unless you have come and experienced who I am this. Till you have never come across this particular stage, you are not in human, what we call it as existence, or you are not yet in the Manushya Yoni. What exactly that human birth gives us is what we need to understand. The Guru clearly explains very beautifully. Guru Gorakhnatha was able to explain very beautifully on the sixth circle, very beautiful, that first it teaches about the Viveka, discrimination. I can distinguish between not good, bad and ugly, not about white and black, not about my luxury of going in a small car, luxury car. What is temporary from what is eternal? This distinction you will be able to do it. The Viveka will lead you to something called pleasure from the fulfillment. What we call it as today desire from the dharma. What we call it as from the knowledge, from the information. And what exactly is ego from the Atma, or what we call it as experiencing that ego, knowing that ego, Ātman, is existence. This is the determination, or sorry, discrimination, what it teaches us about the Viveka. I can distinguish between all these things around me, which will make us much more clear what is importance in this Manushya Yoni. The second secret is about vichara, inquiry. This is what actually the Ramana Maharshi also was able to teach us very beautifully. Inquiry. Who am I? The human being can ask, who am I? This is very, 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 very important. When you talk about this particular topic, this is again a much more detailed thoughts we can take into. Inquiry, vichara. In the Manushya Yoni, you have something called inquiring. Vichara. Inquiring about from this particular food good, or that particular food is good, this particular place is good, that is also vichara. I'm inquiring, I'm not denying it. This existence, who am I? This is what human Yoni is all about. Third secret Guru was able to tell about the Sankalpa. We spoke about this in the last video. Sankalpa is an intention. The human beings can consciously decide, I will change. Sankalpa is about this. I will change. I will change doesn't mean that again tomorrow morning I will do the same nonsense. Once you have took Sankalpa, it is a commitment between you and him that whatsoever the external situations are you under through, you will make sure you will still be performing your Nitya Kriyas. The fourth is about what he was able to tell was very, very, very detailed, or what we call it as very connected information, is about Vairagya, dispassion. Why Vairagya is actually the fourth stamba for Manushya Yoni to understand. The human being can observe the world around him. He may say that I can participate without even becoming imprisoned in it. This is what actually many of the gurus have already taught us. Play without even getting attached to the role of the play. I can participate without becoming imprisoned into a particular role. Vairagya, dispassion is very, very important. The fifth is about, he tells very beautifully about Bhāva. Bhāva is the most, what we call as essential, or the Adhara Stambha, sacred feeling. Emotion can become a doorway to the actually the divine. Emotion is not about the emotion of a prani, pashu, manushya emotion, a sacred feeling. You can actually take this as connection to the devatas, the bhava to the devatas, the bhavagnya to the devatas. The sixth is about the bhakti. When you do a sadhana, you get also the bhakti, devotion. The heart, from different community, people come tell that actually, I being in this particular community for so long time, being in a Middle East or being in Europe or being in some part of the world, I get attached to the Shiva, I get attached to the particular Shakti. Bhakti is getting active in them, the devotion is getting active. Manushya, Yonis, they are able to experience. The heart can continuously turn towards a supreme always. This is called bhakti. Many people have spoken in a different way. Especially you go to any kind of an ashrama, guru ashramas, they always talk about the guru bhakti. Guru bhakti is actually initially, unless you guruvina gulama naguva tanaka sigadaya ninage mukati, unless you surrender to the guru tattva inside someone sitting in front of you, you will not be able to experience the life what is making you offer it for it. It may be in the form of a Bhairava, it may be in the form of a Shiva, it may be in the form of a Shakti, Kamakyama, anyone. As this Rahasya was being explored, experienced, expressed in the Kamakya Pita, this was what the story he was able to tell. Bhakti, the devotion is very, very, very important. But here he skips the three. But let me just tell you, after this actually he tells about this is the Manushya Yoni we need to. But as from a Bhairava Anugraha, I always tell, these three are very, very important. These are not the 6, these are actually 9. After the Bhakti, what we call it as 1 as Viveka, Vichara, Sankalpa, Vairagya, Bhāva and Bhakti. There are 3 more, much more important in the what as a human we need to understand about the sadhana. Sadhana, why exactly is being called discipline? See, sadhana is not something like I roll the mala mechanically, so many numbers, so many number of times, so many days, so many recitation of the mantra, irrespective I really don't know what is the hell it is trying to do in my life. It is not the sadhana. Discipline, whatever the life throws at me, I make sure that I sit for him. I love him in such a way. My prema is in such a way that I still repeatedly sit in his blessings, in his presence. That is what we call it as a sadhana. The human begins what we call it as deliberately from training the body, hatha yoga, what we call it as pranayama, what we call it as a mind, what we call it as a consciousness. All these things, the ayamas can be touched only with the help of sadhana. If you tell I am doing a bhakti and I will be able to talk about the hatha yoga, no, you will not be able to unless you do the sadhana, unless you have a discipline in your life. The pranayama, knowing the importance of your swasa. In Nada Sampradaya, Shwasa is being given as a highest importance. From Bhakti Bhava, you will not be able to. Only through the sadhana you will be able to. Consciously will be able to sit repeatedly, not with the Bhakti and Bhava. You may sit, but still you can become a mechanical. But here, sadhana is a ground. Sadhana is a base. Sadhana is the Adhara Stambha, which will make us to experience the consciousness of that existence. The 8th is very, very important. It is about the Jnāna. Jnāna is not about the, what do you call it as, bookish information. Jnāna is what we call it as It is not only about the knowledge, it is about what we see as what has made that. It is not just information, it is a knowledge. It is making you awareness. Jnana, people think that jnana means information. I know the jnana of that particular subject. I have a jnana of that particular word. I have that information about this particular knowledge. The human being can investigate the nature of the reality, this existence, with that particular self, the self with connecting with the Bhāva, with the Bhairava. The knowledge, the Jnāna is very, very, very important. Once you come across all these 6 plus 2, the one final something called, people today they have misunderstood this, but still, let me disclose. This is about the moksha, the liberation. The human begin, what we call it as, can what we call it as a consistently seek from a, what we call it as a freedom from a avidya and that bondage. This is why the human birth is extraordinary. Avidya or vidya is not going to, information is not going to help. Knowledge is going to, the jnana is going to help you about to identify what is importance to you. This is why the human birth is extraordinary. Not because the humans are merely stronger. We can think, we can code, we can do everything. No. Because we can take care of someone, we go to the... No. Because human can turn consciousness towards into your own source. Till that has come into your existence, never. The moksha is never the reality. The Guru was able to tell all these 6th stages and made the sādhaka understand what is actually the Yoni Rahasya is all about. The sādhaka thought that the teaching has been finished. He told that, but Guru, I was able to understand. Guru told, no, wait. What you understand is only about the outer door. It is about the what we call it as a doorway. There is another journey, the journey within the human birth itself. After the 6th circle, he drew one more circle. Not every human being is a spiritually awakened. 6, everyone knows. What is the 7th? He tells that actually this is about spirituality awaken. The human body does not automatically produce something called human consciousness. I'm not trying to talk about the human consciousness as today's science is trying to talk. No. This is the stage where you experience this into him in a very profound level of connection. Let me just quickly tell about the 7th circle, which is very, very important. I know that actually this is becoming little more bigger, but still, let me just quickly take you through. The human journey from what we call it as bhoga to bodha. Bhoga is actually what you may know, like bhoga is about the primarily thoughts. It is normally about experience, food, pleasure, money, position, recognition, relationship, status, what we call it as a security in my life. The question is about what can I get from this particular life, from that particular person. The human being is still learning through that what experience is all about. But eventually something happens. Everything that comes gives a pleasure. Begins, it loses its pleasure later in a couple of days, in couple of actions, couple of moments. People tell, I love her, I love him, I love this particular gadget. For particular moment, for the particular days, they hold it and finally they tell, I'm done with this. They tell that actually I have done a love marriage, but I am in a stage of actually like getting into a situation where I need to take the separation from them. Bhoga. The person achieves something. He experienced something. He tells that, oh, I am done with this experience. I need to leave it now. And that wanting, the next stage, I need something new. Get something else. And the fear of losing it and loves actually someone else. And fear of actually the separation in emotions. And becoming successful of around us. And still feel like Finally, when you go and talk, any of the greatest celebrity in this existence, they tell, I have got all the bhogas in this particular world in existence, but I don't have something called completeness. I still feel incomplete. Manushya Yoni, seventh circle, they have never come across. The first crack appears here is about the illusion. The second stage is about the dharma. What can I get? How should I live? This is the emergence of the dharma. People talk about today about the dharma in many ways. Responsibilities, they talk about the ethics, they talk about the self-restriction, they talk about the seva, they talk about the truthfulness, they talk about the compassion, they talk about the discipline. But my action has consequences. How you react, I will react to it. My dharma. This is the beginning of a consciousness evolution. This is about the dharma. They are stuck that I give back to you once you give back to me. Third is about viveka, discrimination. The sadhaka begins something like everything changes. The body changes, the relationship changes, the money changes, the status changes, the thoughts also changes. Emotion towards one will also get changed. But something is aware of all these changes. What is that getting changed? This is the beginning of what we call it as Atma Vichara. This is the third stage. In that circle, seventh circle, he divided it. Fourth stage, he told about Vairagya. Not that Vairagya which I have told in the Manushya Yoni. Vairagya does not mean the hatred to the world. It means the world no longer possesses me. You can enjoy without even clinging. You can love without even trying to possess something, holding it. It's me, it's mine. You can work without even making identity depends upon my success. You can lose without even completely losing yourself. This is what as a sadhaka we need to understand. Nothing external can complete that what is fundamentally what we call it as seeking. It's our own source of creation. This is the importance of Vairagya. The fifth is about the Shraddha. Not comes through the what we call it as Shraddha doesn't mean the discipline. No, it is much more deeper into that. But the heart begins to trust the path. They always question, is it this for me? Is it for someone else? No, this is actually creating some trouble in my life. Not this path. I'll go to some other path. Trust in the Guru. Trust in the Shastra. Trust in the sadhana. Trust in that particular divine Devata, Bhairava. The possibilities of awakening. This is Shraddha, not the blind belief. This is the reason we always in the Bhairava Anugraha talk about experience. The willingness to walk far enough to discover direction is what is really importance of what we call it as Shraddha. The Bhakti, not the Bhakti as what I told about the human form or what we call it as a human Yoni, 4 lakh, no. Here I worship Bhairava because I want something. But later I worship becomes love, prema. Later it's still I worship because I cannot remain separated from him. This is what real bhakti is about. The one I worship is not a separate from a consciousness by which I start worshipping him. This is where the bhakti begins achieving or approaching towards the Jnāna, the knowledge. And Bhāva is about the bhakti deepens the Bhāva. The sadhaka sees the divine as what we call it as a silence, the breath, what we call it as a nature or a guru or a mantra, what is he has received it, or even it may be a suffering. Bhāva, you start experiencing all these things very, very deep. Breathe, the nature, the guru, the mantra, the suffering, the joy, and even within the moment of that particular mind, the glimpse of that mind, Jñāna Bhairava Tantra, which talks about this, Bhāva makes the divine living. Sadhaka does not merely remember the devatas. The sadhaka begin to feel his presence in his life. Not merely like actually has come to save us. He is always with me. The 8th stage is very important. The Guru. The path takes another turn here. He talks about why it is very important. I cannot navigate the deepest terrain of the consciousness merely through my own assumptions. Here, Guru's role, Guru's prakatya or Guru's presence is very, very important. Becomes very, very essential. In the Nata Sampradaya, Guru than Devata, Guru is actually given the highest importance because Guru occupies a central place in the transmission and what we call it as a practice. Who am I? To experience this, Guru is very important. The tradition is fundamentally is associated with something called yogic realization rather than merely about theoretical, what we call it as debates which is going on today. No. Guru does not merely gives information. Guru gives you something called a direction. Guru gives you something called discipline. Guru gives something called what is correct, what is wrong. Guru gives you something like with this desire, how can I transform? Guru gives you something called as a practice. By doing this repeatedly, how I can be part of him. And sometimes even silence. He teaches even what the silence is about. And 5th and 9th stage is about the sadhana. When it comes to the sadhana, it is not about only japa, dhyana, pranayama, asana, puja, seva. No. It is much more deeper than that. The 7th circle teaches us about the sadhana into a different level, talking about knowing to doing. Because knowing that does not transform, life remains information. In Nata Sampradaya, what we call it as any association of action with a particular yoga or a discipline, realization rather than merely as what we do it as psychological arguments, what we are supposed to do it. Knowing is not just knowing. Knowing is doing. And that is sadhana. The 10th stage, in the 7th circle, he was able to talk about the 10th point, what we call it as ekagrata. Previously, we have thought about what we have as one thought, another desire, another fear, another memory. Now, it is another direction we are trying to think. This is the beginning of a real inner power. The sādhaka discovers energy flows attention. The final is about what we call it as dharana, what we call it as dhyana, dhyaya, and what we call it as Jñāna, and finally about Atmabodha. This particular 5 are very, very deepest connection because this will lead something to called as Bhairava Bhāva. Bhairava Bhāva is about a sadhaka begins contemplating about the Bhairava is a vast consciousness. He talks about it, and he writes about it. Without even experience, he starts writing about it. You may have seen many of the feeds coming to your post. You may feel that actually there is something being written. Bhairava is not approached merely as an external devata. The fear arises, the fear dissolves. What we call it as through the dissolve, with the birth appears, with the death appears, the time moves. Bhairava, before even becoming the confront with the limited itself, let me just tell you, everything that makes conscious feel a small becomes part of the sadhana. The stage is actually called what we call it as Jivan Mukti, which is actually called Kaivalya. Liberation is not merely a powerful experience. It is a freedom from fundamental misunderstanding of all these yonis when we have crossed. The sadhaka no longer reaches outside of what we call it as computation of the self. The journey that appears to travel from one stage, countless, has finally turned into something called not one on other. It is about inward. The deepest discovery is the traveler, what we call it as the traveler was never separate from the destination. This is what did the 84 lakh Yonis really teach us. This what we call it as Yoni Rahasya. Guru Gorakhnatha was able to teach us this very. Jala Tattva is about the existence. Stavara is talking about the stillness. What we call it as Kita. Kita Yoni is teaching about the reaction. Pakshi Yoni is actually teaching about the freedom. What we call it as a Pashu Yoni is teaching about the relationship. I can love and belong to it. But Manisha Yoni is giving a choice. I can ask why. I can become free. It will give us about the Viveka, Vairagya, Shraddha, Bhakti, Jnana, Bhāva, many things. But these are not the one last secret what we have it. Stillness becomes meditation, sensitivity becomes the awareness, and the freedom becomes Vairagya. This is what actually as a sadhaka we need to understand. From the journey of all these 84 lakh yonis is what actually makes us, the journey is not from one body to the another body alone. It is from the unconsciousness experience to the consciousness experience to the conscious inquiring to finally to make realization. That is the deepest mystery of what we call it as 84 lakh yonis is trying to teach us. From the Natha Sampradaya, 84 lakh framework is not 84 lakh times. It is about the 84 classrooms, which is teaching us in each classroom what we are trying to understand. Understanding the Yoni at the stages as embodiment of the lesson, what makes us to even sit here today, talk, listen. Even if you are listening till now, try to understand. You have crossed all the stages. You're trying to experience this. Natha Sampradaya is all about that. Maybe this video is very longer, but let me just tell you. This is the secret of the existence. It gives you a freedom to go beyond Yoni Rahasya without preparing later actually what we call it as literally actually like something which is need to know. It will give you why exactly this particular stage I am able to do a sadhana, I am able to do a mantra, I am able to know, sit, even a glimpse of that particular moment, I know him. Why this is opening. This is what very important when it comes to the Natha Sampradaya. Maybe by this note, we'll take a leave for this video and come with one more beautiful connection about our Ishtartha Guru Bhairava. This particular story gives us a very important, that day it was Amavasya. Amavasya is about removing from the darkness to the going to the next to the light. Maybe after hearing this, may the Amavasya get shed on your life and bring a light into your life. Om Kalakalaya Vidmahe Kalatitaya Dhimahi Tanno Bhairava Prachodayat. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amritarupini Tanu Shaktivana Shiveshri Hingulambikaya Namaha. Namaskaram.